And there's a look towards the Yorkville neighborhood off in the distance. And just over there is the north end of Huron Street. And today is Wednesday, August 31st. The time is 4:47 p.m. and the temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius. And this here is McPherson Avenue. And there's a look up at Casa Loma. And for this one, I'm going to walk over to Spadina there. And then I'm going to make my way south to Dupont Street. And then I'm going to walk over to the north end of Huron Street. And then from there, I'll walk south down the entire length of Huron. And that's a walk that should be around 3 kilometers in total. Or at least Huron Street is about that long. And that building there is the Toronto Archives. And these are the Midtown CP rail tracks. And I've been meaning to do a walk along Huron Street for quite a while. It's something I often talked about in a lot of my earlier live streams, and it became something of a running joke as I never actually got around to it. So today is the day where I finally tackle it. And there's the northwest entrance to Dupont Station. And I climbed out of that staircase to arrive in this neighborhood. And south of here, you'll find Spadina Station. And a look to the That's a look to the west along Dupont. I almost said east there. And before heading out to record this one, I put up a poll on the YouTube page asking if I should do a bike ride or an e-bike ride. A bike ride or an e-bike ride, a walk or an e-bike ride. I also asked for some suggestions. Wow, I am tripping all over my words today. And some people had suggested that I do a streetcar ride. I think that's a great idea. It's been a while since I've done one, so I'll be incorporating that into a future video. There's a look down Madison Avenue, and that's one of the nicer streets in the Annex. And that says a lot because the Annex has a lot of nice residential streets. Now on the left here is an LCBO. And what's interesting, if you check out Huron Street in Google Maps, it actually includes the parking lot of the liquor store here. So I guess this is the start of Huron Street, at least according to Google. So that parking lot where I started was just on the south side of or the north side of the rail tracks. I'm getting everything wrong. I don't think that can possibly be correct. This is really just a parking lot. I don't see any signs to indicate that that would be Huron Street. And here we are at the north end of Huron. So I'll be going due south here for about 3 kilometers or so, and it'll come to an end at Phoebe, which is just to the north of Queen Street West. There's a nice shaded area. So this neighborhood is known as the Annex, and I am just north of downtown. And this walk will take us through the Annex, as well as the University of Toronto's St. George campus. And we'll see some very ugly buildings along the way. And then it'll be through the Baldwin Village and Chinatown area. I've seen a redevelopment notice on this home. A lot of these properties date back to the 1800s. It looks like there's a plan for 6 townhomes and an additional 2 stories to go up on this building. I wonder if that's a historical building or if it has heritage status. I know 661 Huron Street. Which I think is this one here, actually. That's what I was looking at. This was a former receiving home for kids, mostly strays that made their way from the UK. And it served that purpose in the 20s and 30s. There we go, it says 661 right there. How did I miss it? Was the one mental note I made on this area. So there was a plan to redevelop the property, and it was given heritage status, so it looks like the developers will have to jump through a bunch of hoops and probably have to preserve the existing structure. Right, I want to make my way back to the other side of the street. It's always nicer not to walk alongside the side of the street where there's street parking. And coming up on the left should be Huron Street Junior Public School. There's a very interesting looking home. Kind of like a 60s or 70s take on the future. So one block over to the west of here is Madison Avenue, and I've done a few videos that have gone up and down that street. And a block to the east is St. George Street. I've also covered that one, but I've never done Huron Street, or at least not the entirety of it. And this here is Bernard Avenue. And the Chinese consulate, I believe, is just over there at St. George. Speed limit 30.
Not every pathogen has like surface inoculation methods that are as robust as syringa, though. That's the thing. And also,
This house here on the right has a heritage plaque. So that one dates back to 1892. And some of these homes are chopped up into multiple residences, as this is an area where a lot of University of Toronto students try to settle in for the semesters to follow. And there is the Huron Street Junior Public School. I think it has around 350 students attending it. And this school opened in 1958. I think that's probably the original structure over there. And it replaced a school that dated back to the 1890s.
I know it's not done yet, but it's good, no?
Yes.
It's not hard to see why this is such a desirable neighborhood. Just to the south of here, you do have a lot of retail along Bloor Street. And you also have Dupont Street just to the north. And this is Lowther Avenue coming up. And once I get south of Bloor, be walking through an area that's mostly occupied by the University of Toronto. There's an off-leash zone for dogs with a double-gated entrance. And the rent on these apartment buildings is quite expensive. That's a general theme around this city these days, but even more so in this neighborhood. I can't lie, that house looks pretty awesome. It's got kind of a castle motif to it. The Annex is known for having its own distinct architectural style. And on the right here is the Institute of Italian Culture. The Italian consulate is right at Dundas and Beverly.
For sure. You like saying nothing. If it were me, I would say it.
There's Prince Arthur Avenue, so St. George subway station is just over to the east. Just go east for a block and then south for half a block and you'll be there. And we are almost at Bloor Street. And it looks like the Bloor Street United Church is undergoing an extensive renovation. There's a Backfeets. And Not Just Bikes recently did a video on those, and I'm starting to see more and more of those pop up in Toronto. And that building over there used to be known as the Rochdale Apartments, or I guess Rochdale College. Now it's the Senator David A. Kroll Apartments, and that originally operated as a co-op living space for students, and it was also a student-run alternative education experience, and it was rather short-lived. It kind of devolved into a haven of crime and drug use. And we'll look east along Bloor. Although it does have an excellent all-you-can-eat Japanese barbecue on the main level, and they're just regular apartment buildings now, although when they were built, they were also built along with this, which still stands as a student residence. And you can see they're very similar. And right here in the corner is UTS. That's an independent secondary school. And it is affiliated with the University of Toronto. And it's operated as such for about 100 years. And their affiliation with the university was set to end in 2021. But fortunately, the university decided to renew their agreement and extensively renovate the property. I think to the tune of $60 million. So this is all new. It's a weird random hump in the grass. So I believe most of these properties are part of the University of Toronto, although there are some privately owned homes in this area. And there's a house coming up that made the news last year as it was falling over, and I'm curious to see what's become of it. It was originally a semi-detached home, and the house it was attached to was torn down. This is the St. Thomas Anglican Church of Canada. There's a plaque here. I'm not seeing a date. And we're about to walk by what I think is easily one of the ugliest buildings in the city. That's the Brutalist Robarts Library. That's just up here on the left. Although I think the Rochdale Apartments, or Rochdale College, I walked by earlier, would give it a run for its money. And something we'll see more of as I go south on Huron Street are these little corner stores embedded into the homes. That one there is the Chelsea shop. There's the library, which is undergoing a pretty big renovation right now. So a big gray brutalist concrete structure is getting married with a look of glass and steel. That's kind of interesting. And that's a neat looking property. What's going in here? Looks like they want to build a 3-story, 2-residence apartment on this location. And this, I think, is the house that was leaning over. It's been designated a historic property. Well, that actually looks like it's an entirely new house. Or maybe not. So it was 356 and 358 Huron. And one of them got knocked down, and then the other one was leaning. And it sort of made the news. And this is Huron Street coming up. And those trees right there are cherry blossom trees. So when they're in bloom, you can go for a walk through there. There's a look at Robarts. I would say that new addition is tastefully done. As tasteful as they could have made it, considering the monstrosity it's attached to.
Or I said, does every student get that?
So in a few weeks, I'll probably come back here and do a walk around the campus when it's back in session. This is the largest and busiest university campus in the entire country. There's the Center for Biological Timing and Cognition. And U of T is an interesting mix of some of the nicest old buildings we have in the city and some incredibly unremarkable ones. If I were to guess, I would say that's a product of the 60s. And for most of this, I think the entire block so far, Huron has been a two-way street. But it turns into a one-way street, so the college, I think it's southbound. And then it flips directions a bunch of times between there and where it ends. And that is New College. Very unremarkable building, but they've done a nice job on the landscaping. And this street here has been pedestrianized between Huron and St. George. There's the Lash-Miller Chemical Laboratories, Department of Chemistry. I can just see the tip of the CN Tower off in the distance. I don't know if the exposure is going to pick that up or not. Looks a bit blown out. So Huron jogs to the right at this next intersection. And just south of here will be College Street. Is Ursula Franklin Street. And this ugly gray building up here, which is another candidate for the ugliest one on this walk, is a CAMH facility. That's the Center for Mental Health and Addiction. Got a rather large campus in the West Queen West neighborhood on Queen Street. And this building here is also part of CAMH. They've got quite the collection of ugly buildings in this area. But they provide an invaluable service. And South of College will take us through the Chinatown and Baldwin Village area. And it looks like I might miss the light cycle. I don't feel like running it. As for that sign, this is Toronto's Discovery District. Major intersection to the west is Spadina, and you could turn south there and head through the heart of Chinatown. That is the William H. Smith branch of the Toronto Public Library. And don't let its looks deceive you, that building has only been there since 1995. Looks like it might be historic, but it's not. Although it did replace the library that was originally built back in 1922. And there's the CN Tower off in the distance. Hey, there's an e-bike. And the Huron Street Community Garden is usually quite a wait list to get yourself a plot in one of these gardens. And you'll notice a lot of these homes are much smaller in scale compared to the ones we went past in the Annex neighborhood. I think you're more likely to find rooming houses and student residences in this area. Seems to be a popular day to throw your mattress out. That one can't even be that old. It says Wayfair Sleep on it. I'm guessing that's not garbage and someone's either moving in or moving out.
We're a big city right now, so yeah. I think maybe like Tuesday or Thursday.
It's always neat to have the CN Tower in the backdrop. And this is Cecil Street. There's a look towards Spadina, and you'll notice the Chinese characters on the street signs. In the 60s and 70s, over 50% of the residents in this area were of Chinese origin. Most were actually from Hong Kong, which was a separate entity back then. And it was mostly Cantonese speaking, although that has slowly changed over the years. I think there's more Mandarin now, and Mandarin-based dialects than Cantonese.
Since you're working on your muscles.
This is the Chinese Canadian Intercultural Association. And this here is Baldwin Street. And if you were to turn left here, in a few minutes, you'll be in the heart of Baldwin Village. There's a neat stretch of shops and restaurants just along that way. And there's a corner store. And perhaps at some point this one was.
Oh shit.
These homes here on the right look like old workers' cottages. The original Chinatown was to the east of here, right around where Nathan Phillips Square is currently, and then the city expropriated and kicked everyone out. Well, there's still some remnants of that, known as Old Chinatown, but the main Chinatown migrated west to Dundas and Spadina. And that coincides with this area becoming more Chinese by population. And this is Darcy Street. So just south of here is Dundas. Over there is the Chinese Canadian Women's Association of Toronto. And these red street decorations weren't here before 2018. This is known as the Huron Street Public Square. And they were installed by the Chinatown BIA. See up, Klansmen's Association. It's a rather nice food delivery car. I've been seeing more and more food delivery people riding those Zumo e-bikes. And a look east along Dundas Street. And just off in the distance is the art gallery. And you could keep going and you'll find yourself at Dundas Square. red light. And you can actually see where Huron Street terminates just to the south of here. Well, about 3 or 4 blocks. And this is Grange Avenue coming up. And these corner shops go back to the 1800s. The one on this corner here used to be a grocer way back in the day. There used to be one on that corner that was a butcher shop. There's another storefront that's now a hair salon.
回答都有问题。真的，
我回答不行。
And there's a storefront that's just been covered up. And the street is now southbound again. This laneway is called the Orphanage Way. And that home there is a Richardson Romanesque style home. Wonder if that at one point in time operated as an orphanage. It looks like a homemade garage. Look at this home. Wow. I don't see any street signs, but I think this is Sullivan. There's another former corner store that's been boarded up. That looks like another one right here. And that's something that's really lacking in traditional suburban neighborhoods. They don't really have the zoning to allow for that, but I think in areas that are designed to be car-centric, a corner store might do pretty well. It would certainly serve the community. And they certainly don't have to compete on price with the big retailers. There is Ogden Junior Public School. It's a French immersion school. And I've done it. This is the south end of Huron Street, and there's a look up to the north. This is east on Phoebe Street. So from here, I'm going to make my way over to Osgoode subway station, and then I'm going to head home. I've got about 35 minutes before the TTC will charge me a second fare. Robert Elder Carriage Works Limited. So just south of here is Queen Street West. And this is Soho Street. I might as well leave the camera rolling as I make my way back to the subway station. Back to it. I was not there to begin with, but you get the idea. The African Methodist Episcopal Church once stood on this site. And one of the oldest taverns in the city is coming up on the left, the Black Bull. There's Mountain Equipment Co-op. And welcome to Queen Street West. I don't know if the guy across the street was waving to me or not. Here's Beverly Street.
That was the decision that was made.
It was weird, but it worked.
And here is John Street. Just to the north of here is Grange Park. Looks like the warehouse has cleared off their sidewalk patio. If you're curious about Queen Street West, I've done a number of walks over the years on this street. It'll be easy to find. Wonder what this guy's shooting here. Probably the CN Tower. Not really sure. I'll probably be walking along Queen again pretty soon. I have a member's request from a Patreon supporter to do a walk that starts at Bathurst and then heads along this way and then continues all the way through Queen Street East, at least through the downtown part of it. And we're at University Avenue, so I'm going to pop down into Osgoode Station. There's a good amount of people out today at this time. During the pandemic, Queen Street was really hit or miss. Trying to fish out my transit card. Free transfer, woohoo! Like I just missed the train I wanted. I want this southbound train that'll head down to Union and turn around and become northbound up the Yonge Street part of Line 1. could take that one too, but I'd rather not have to transfer twice. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed this one. Heading southbound all of Huron Street and making my way to Queen Street West and then over to Osgoode Station. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below, and if you wish to support the channel, there's links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership in the description. And I have an Instagram account at Johnny Strides. And it looks like the train is rolling in. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.